Scarlet is a supernatural horror-esque Yuri about two girls named Fine Hera, a girl who turned into a werewolf through the drug elixir, and Iris Red Hood, a wolf whose blood is the only thing that can calm Fine down when she's in a rage. The both of them are on a journey to find the first wolf in order to regain Fine's humanity so that Iris can devour her whole. This is a bloody and smutty Yuri that spans across 2 volumes with an interesting concept but a rather flimsy execution and an ending that left me quite dissatisfied. Hey guys, it's Ike and welcome back to another edition of Bad Ramblings, the series where I ramble on badly. So I remember reading Scarlet back in 2018/2019 before finding out that it had gone publication to the West, and as you can see, of course, I ended up buying it because I'm just a sucker for Yuri in any other setting that isn't grounded in reality, i.e. girls in high school or, just a school setting or an office setting. So the fact that this had taken place in a more supernatural/fantasy, I was really all in for because Yuri is really nice. But when you put Yuri with fantasy or even Yuri with horror, that shit is really fucking great, and I wish people do that a lot more. And not just, like magical girl stuff, but still in a more reality setting. So I had a rather enjoyable read of these 2 volumes, but the big reason for that was because I thought that this was a 3-volume series at best, so I was waiting for a magical 3rd volume to appear out of nowhere. But as I did my full read-through of this manga, I had realized that in the back of volume 2, it had said the thrilling conclusion to a supernatural Yuri romance. And when I finally discovered that this is actually the final volume to this series, my opinion of the series overall kind of dipped a little bit, mainly because, well, there's a lot of loose knots that has not been tied. Is that how that saying goes? I don't know. But let us get into the spoiler-free review. So, I like the fairy tale theme of Red Riding Hood with, Iris Red Hood and the whole werewolf/wolf and the LEA being the hunters. But other than that, I really feel like it's just here for flavor and also remember Red Riding Hood? Ha ha ha! For the characters, I do like the main pair when they are together. I think that they have chemistry in terms of their character archetypes.
Wait a minute. Why are those shades? Hold on, zoom in on that. It's like 2 different skin texture.
But individually, I do enjoy Iris's character a whole lot more. And, it might be the fact that I do like characters who act a bit of a ditz, but are actually cunning behind the scene. We also see throughout the series that Iris doesn't really follow human morality, which is understandable because she's a non-human herself. She is a wolf. And the way that she kind of switches between that whole ditzy feel and predator mode, I would say, is very nice, and it goes into another thing that I will talk about in a bit about the art. For Fine, the more I think about her, the more I feel like she would fit the whole shonen protagonist type. She has a tragic backstory that fuels her goals. She doesn't want to hurt the innocent. She wants to protect her loved ones, and sometimes because of that, she feels useless or is useless in battle. But despite that, ladies love her. Maybe it's because she tries to act cool, but she's easily bullied by Iris. But it's really that cool side, I suppose, that gets the ladies, and by the ladies I mean like 1 or 2, 1 or 2 girls. But hey, it's the plurals, all right. There are two recurring characters in the series, the first one being Moira Hopkins, who I don't particularly have any issues with other than the major issue that spans across all characters and the plots, and the second one being Misery, whose name lives up to expectation. It's like somebody knew the future and decided to name her exactly what she was going to face in her life: Misery. Then there's the antagonist of Volume 1, who is stupidly fantastic, and the overall antagonist, the First Wolf, who, again, I have the same major issue with, and I will talk about it once I get into the story. I thought the art was pretty good, although there were some poses and some part of the art that made me question it a bit, but I'm no art major, and I don't really know too much art terms, so I'm just gonna leave it there for the moment. Also, I'm not saying that it was the smut that kept me going, but it was pretty nice. In the first volume, though, I felt like the mangaka was just blue-balling the heck out of the readers, because we had all these scenes of Fine and Iris close to kissing, but not really. Like, we have all these scenes, like, this is their lips, right? We have all the scenes of just them doing this, but never actually touching lips. We do see, you know, some blood-sucking scenes, because werewolves, they're kind of like vampires, but furries. But also, not really, because the werewolves in this series don't really get any furs, they just get really long claws. Anyways, about the whole blue balling thing, it really went on for a whole Volume 1, but then Volume 2 came, and everything just went right off the rails. One thing I really like about the art is the way the eyes were drawn, especially when it's done on Iris, and how it kind of goes through in her ditzy mode to her quote-unquote predator mode, and just overall when you see the eyes of despair. Since this is the story of them trying to find the first wolf, who is the person creating all of these elixir drugs in the first place, they need to go through all the elixir users who technically have turned into werewolves, so they need to go through all the werewolves and all the elixir dealers. And due to that, we get a good amount of action scenes out of this. But I felt like the priority of these scenes were to go for cool poses first. Gotta have cool poses! And because of this, the battle scenes didn't really flow well for me. Like, how did we get from point A to point B? Well, it doesn't matter. Check out these cool poses. For the story, I felt like I was in the passenger seat of a driver who was speeding, and despite me telling them to slow down, they kept stepping on the gas pedal. The beginning was a bit weak with the introduction of the main pair and a part of Misery's story, but after the introduction of the main antagonist of Volume 1, I thought the story was going a bit over the top, and I absolutely loved it. Scarlet, to compare, is a bit like a B-movie, and there's just something within me that knows that this story is bad, but I still relatively enjoyed it, and it totally isn't because of the smut, but just when I thought things were going too fast, Volume 2 comes in and hits me with a baseball bat, and when I woke up, I found out that the series is over, and this leads to the major issue that I have in this series. It is undercooked, it's underdeveloped, and there are a lot of questions unanswered. And honestly, if somebody told me that this series got axed because it was a part of the Yurihime magazine comics. Yeah, it was a part of the Yurihime comics. And if somebody told me that it had gotten axed, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, and it would actually make the rather open-ended ending a lot easier to understand. Or who knows, it could just be the mangaka didn't like the story as much anymore and decided to end it, or perhaps they thought that this was a thrilling conclusion to this supernatural Yuri series. But what do you do other than enjoy the ride and just pretend that there's a Mythico Volume 3 coming out, and that the story's never finished. That is going to conclude the spoilerish free review, and if I have anything else to say, I will write it in the description down below. We are going to be heading into the spoiler arena, so if you have not read the series yet, I recommend you do, or don't. I can't really stop you, this is just a video. But if you manage to get the manga or find it somewhere on the internet, I do have my full read-through on both of these volumes that you guys can check out on Patreon for free. There's no need for any payment or anything. I just like posting it on Patreon, so check that out. It'll be in the description as well. And yeah, we're about to head into the spoiler arena. So if you're still here, let's get go. Let's go. Let's go. Well, Hello, welcome to the spoiler arena. So there are 11 chapters, or 12 chapters if you count chapter if somehow. Hopefully I don't end up rambling through every single one of them. But we're gonna start off with chapter 1 with the introduction of the main pair and also of the two sisters who we don't really have a name until later on that we find out that the bigger sister's name is Misery. The introduction is like I said, it does start off a bit weak. It just feels like something that I've seen before. And you see them going off, killing one of the werewolves, and they show off the drug elixir, and they also show a showing of the moon, which actually looks super cool. With the way that it does, it has like a crescent on the, it has a crescent up here instead of, you know, the usual moon that you see, just to show you that this is not reality. We're in a supernatural setting, man. Look at the moon. But anyways, yeah, we see them out hunting werewolves, and then we see them going into a bar to which there's like a drunk man causing a scene because, of course, why the fuck not? There's always gonna be some drunk man being an asshole to somebody. So we get introduced to the two sisters. We see how these two main pairs work as Iris is like talking shit to the booze guy and then using Fine as the shield in order to quote-unquote protect her, even though she doesn't really need protection. But Fine is the tough guy in this situation, and Iris is the shit talker. I talk shit and then you fight Fine, because that's how that shit works. Fine beats up that guy and then they end up getting free booze, and that's when you find out that Iris loves drinking booze, especially if they're free. But you also see the way that they're holding their utensils, because they're werewolves, silver burns them, so when Fine is holding her utensils, she has napkins in order to use them, and Iris doesn't touch her food at all. She just keeps drinking booze instead. She tells the lady, yo, can you switch these out to wooden utensils instead? Silver sucks. Anyways, after that, we find out a bit about Fine's condition, to where sometimes she gets into a bit of a bloodlust, and that she will turn into her werewolf form, and because of that she needs Iris's blood in order to calm herself down. And we see a little bit of a smut action between these two. They're just in the back street somewhere and she's just out here sucking blood, and you know, despite it being a back street, I always feel like there's just somebody in said buildings, a back street, just looking down on them, and it's like, oh, well, that's pretty hot, I guess. I'm just not going to say anything about it. It's just a secret between these two girls and me. And so in that backstory, which kind of causes a bit of a plot hole later on, but we see that she's known Iris ever since she was a little kid. Iris, considering that she's a wolf, doesn't really age, and one day when Fine was older, she finds out that Iris is a man-eating wolf, and she's eating somebody who we will find out later on, which is the reason for this weird plot hole in the first place. But she finds out that Iris is a man-eating wolf, and then they get hunted down by the LEA. Because Fine loves Iris so much, she ends up taking the elixir, and due to that, she turns into a werewolf and destroys everybody in that room, including the lady who was getting eaten by Iris previously. But once she gnawed on Iris, she regained her sense of self, and she finally realized all the shit that she's done. And due to that, she makes a contract with Iris, saying that she wants Iris to eat her, But Iris only wanted to eat her when she was human, so now with this contract, they're going to work together in order to regain Fine's humanity, so then Iris can finally eat her. But when it comes to these stories, it's always, for me, it's always like, they end up being like, oh, I fell in love with you, or I care too much about you, I'm not actually going to eat you, or it goes the other way, to which, you know, I'm not going to eat you, but I'm going to eat you out. It always goes through that two ways, you know, it's never actually,
yeah, I'm gonna fucking consume your flesh now.
Anyways, after that little smut action, Fine decides to add 2 more things into the contract, which is the fact that Iris can't show her ears to anyone, so in a way to hide her powers and not show people that she is a wolf, or else she will be hunted by the LEA, and that Fine will protect her, which fucking good luck, Fine. Like, again, Iris can easily protect herself, and you just gave her a handicap and handicapped yourself. Whatever. So later on in the night, we see that the older sister is giving the little sister some elixir drug because, very nice. She actually has a fucking stone disease. She basically, her skin and like, I assume maybe her veins and muscles and stuff like has turned into stone. And so because of that, it's rendered her useless and she's basically almost all of her body has been covered. And the elixir drug is curing it for the most part. She wants more of the drug and the only way that she can do it is by selling the tavern to these elixir dealers. Before they could finish this deal, Iris and Fine crashes in and then we have a cool pose fight scene. There's a lot of cool poses happening in this fight scene. Fine takes out these 3 men and then we head straight into chapter 2 where Fine tells Misery. I don't know why I wrote Misery. Is that when we find her name? Whatever. Fine tells Misery to hand over the drug, but she refuses, and this puts Fine into a fit. Like, I mean, I guess it's the whole, I don't want to hurt innocent people, but like, just fucking use the back of your sword. Just fucking knock her out or some shit, you know? You don't need to like kill her. Just punch her right in the gut and take the goddamn drug. Honestly, Fine is like, hand over the elixir drug. And Misery's like, no, I can't hand you over this drug. What? And Iris, seeing that Fine is about to turn into her werewolf form, calms her down, very Yuri-like. Like, the amount of times that they get very close to each other in all these fucking Yuri scenes with each other, especially when other people is around, it's like, alright dude, fucking TMI, man, all these goddamn... The name of it escapes my mind, but I'll put it somewhere around here. But yeah, they have a little Yuri moment, and Misery takes this opportunity to take the drug and her little sister, and she runs off at the speed of light. Like, the way that they draw her running, and all, like, the dirt just tracking from her running. Holy shit, dude. She must have been a speedster or something, because she fucking ran like the wind. Fine wanted to chase her, but Iris stops her, and she goes into her yandere mode, or I called it predator mode, for the most part, but she really has that yandere within her, and you know what? I totally enjoyed that. You can see the way her eyes are drawn in this time, and you can even see Fine being scared of Iris when she goes into this mode. She's like, I don't want you to go for anybody else. I want you to listen to me. Especially, I don't want you to go running after some other fucking girl. We ain't got fucking time for that, man. Yeah, they ended up being stopped, and during that time we are introduced to Moira Hopkins, who is part of the LEA officers. They're not really called the LEA officers, they have another name, but honestly I just end up calling them LEA officers anyways. We are introduced on Moira, who totally doesn't have a crush on Fine at all, but they find out that the elixir drug is gone because Misery had taken them, and we go back to Misery, who is still running at the speed of light, and when she's like, okay, I think this is a great time to stop. They just stop at some random back street or stop at some random place still surrounded by buildings, and she's like, I'm gonna give you the rest of this drug right here and then. And I actually forgot to mention this, but the way this little girl reacts to everything, she is paying no attention. Like, she saw 3 dudes got taken down, there's blood everywhere, and she's just smiling away. And at that point, I was just kind of like, is she just fucking high from this drug? They did kind of mention that, you know, her reaction is a bit weird, considering that she has consumed all of the elixir drug, but it's just fantastic. She was just smiling the whole way through. Maybe she's the yandere too. Anyways, Misery gives her a little bit more of the drug and it cures her of the disease. Her little sister is like, thank you for fucking making me high on drugs and now I am cured of everything. Oh, I'm dead now. Oh! So yeah, she's dead. And we head into the next scene of what we would presume to be the first wolf selling drug to this fucking lolly. This lolly Lolita. And oh my god, dude, when you get like this full scene of her, you just see women around this chair, right? And they're just having a discussion about the elixir and, you know, like, do you want this elixir or not? And so the lolly's like, hell yeah, I want this fucking elixir. We're all having a fun time right now. What would you want it to stop? And you see this full frontal of this lolly sitting on a throne, and there are 3 half-naked women just surrounding her. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, this is fucking stupid, and I fucking love it at the same time. With that, we head on to chapter 3, where we see Fine doing the cabadon on Hopkins, or cabadon on Hopkins. Oh, the cabadon was too strong, the recording stopped. Fine asks Hopkins on the status of these 2 sisters, but Hopkins doesn't know, which then goes into Hopkins trying to ask Fine out for dinner, but is completely ignored. And yeah, that's basically her character. She gets fucking ignored by Fine. Fantastic. Then we get into the chunk of this chapter that doesn't really matter too much, I'll be honest, but it does display the whole morality of Iris and, again, how she doesn't follow human morals because they see this tavern that offers free booze if they win against the tavern owner, but they find out that the tavern owner is a big fucking cheat. So well, we also did get to see the werewolf eyes, or the wolf eyes from Iris, and since the guy is cheating, she's like, I'm just gonna use my wolf eye. I'm gonna fucking see right through your cards. I'm gonna see exactly what you are doing. But since the cheating tavern owner was literally about to take every single one of their money and also Iris's body as well, since she bet her own body because they had no more money at that point, when it was turning around to Iris's favor, she was like, alright, how about I harvest your organs for money, you know, since you ran out of money, how about you fucking give me your goddamn organs? And Fine had to stop her, and she was still also a little bit scared. And again, we have her saying, oh yeah, sometimes I forget she doesn't follow human morals. That's the one thing I do like about Iris, is that she just does not give a fucking shit. The only person she cares about is Fine, and her end goal is to fucking eat her. So yeah, Fine stops Iris from potentially harvesting his organs and instead asks the tavern owner to give them free food and booze. In the next scene of that, we see Misery. We see the lolly with Misery. And Misery's just sitting there all sad and shit, and it looks like the lolly is about to give her some elixir, which is just, well, sucks to suck, Misery. Sucks to suck. Over in chapter 4, we are introduced to a new term, a bacchano, which is a party where they just binge on elixir. They binge on a copious amount of elixir, which is totally cool and all, and sometimes you just gotta have a drug party and you just sniff a whole lot of glitter drug. And since this is going to be a bacchano and the chances of multiple werewolves forming, she tries to stop Iris from following since she is not a part of the LEA and that she's just an ordinary citizen. But they have more, I don't know why, every time they get together, it's just Yuri moments with them. PDA, that's what it was. It's just fucking PDA all the fucking time, and you know, I feel for Hopkins, honestly. Poor Hopkins, just getting ignored and then being stuffed with PDA. Fide asks who is hosting the party, and Hopkins says that, oh, it's just a succubus, so it'll be easy game for you. Hopkins says, not realizing that she has raised the flag. Then we go back to Misery and the lolly succubus, who is... I just realized she's a lolly succubus. So, her name is Mara, and we saw that she had found Misery just laying on the fucking street somewhere, somehow, and you know, in a world like this, she's just laying on the fucking street and nobody came to freaking sexually assault her. A fucking miracle for this girl. They must have known her name was Misery, and they're like, I don't know. I don't want to cause any more misery to her. They pitied her, so they just left her alone instead. But anyways, we find out that she and Mara were actually friends back when they were young, which is, wow, I guess. Misery tells Mara about what had happened. You know, she had lost her tavern, she had lost her sister, and now she's super sad. Oh, my life is such a misery. And so Mara's like, don't worry, girl. Let me take you to my sex dungeon. Or technically, let me take you to my sex mansion. And she goes in and there are just half naked or naked women everywhere just taking elixir drug, and Misery, knowing what happens to people who takes the elixir drug, is like, what the fuck's going on here? Are all these girls taking elixirs? They're all going to fucking die. And Mara's like, don't worry, only children die of these drugs, but when adults take them, ooh, damn, dude, you just get high as fuck, dude. You want some? Your life is a fucking misery anyways. Misery ends up, I assume, since she's a lolly succubus, she's using a bit of her charm, and so Misery ends up going into that whole sad state again, and we get to the point, back to the point where the lolly succubus is trying to give Misery some elixir before they get interrupted by the LEA agents, which, you know, is Fine and Iris and then a bunch of other dudes who are here to arrest these girls here at the Bacano. My favorite thing is when the LEA bust in and she sees Fine and Iris again. Misery is like, why can't y'all just leave me the fuck alone? Can't I have a moment's peace? Like, it's just the fucking most hilarious thing ever. It's just, Misery is just exactly that, Misery, and I loved her character because of her name alone. Anyways, as the LEA officers try to arrest these girls, they begin turning into werewolves, and that's when either Fine or Iris said it. They said, well, dying is a pretty good solution when you take the elixir. Not dying, but, you know, if you instantly die, that is the good path to the elixir. But if you don't die, you end up turning into werewolves, these bloodthirsty monsters, and they just start absolutely ripping these LEA officers to fucking pieces, man. Hold on, I gotta check if this is the point where, yeah, after the LEA bust in, you just see the lolly succubus just like jumping away, which is such a hilarious pose when I see her do that. We see her do that pose again when she jumps afterwards, which is just, oi, fucking fantastic. Oh yeah, it was Iris. It says that elixir was brewed by a witch using the moon magic of the first wolf. The healing, the bliss, those are just side effects. The real effect of the drug is to turn humans into werewolves. Whew. Okay, so that goes into chapter 5, where Iris gives Fine her werewolf eyes, and I assume because they have the contract, both of them have a ring that connects to each other, that we find out later on also connects their thoughts. So that's how Iris is able to give her the werewolf eyes, and because of that, she's able to stand up against these werewolves. And we see them saying that, well, actually, this one guy who got, he's still alive, but he got fucking mauled, and he sees Fine fighting, and he's like, wow! It takes like 5 hunters to take on one werewolf, but here she is taking on 2 at the same time by herself. No wonder she's the strongest in the LEA. And I'm over here like, really? She's the strongest? You don't have anybody else who's fucking good as the same as her? Like, really? She's like 17, y'all. Get fucking good. But there is a bit of a confusion here because it kind of goes into like the mindset of the guy. And then we see Iris being like, yeah, that's right. She's fucking strong. What do you think? Like, as if she could read the guy's mind. Is that part of her wolf power too? Anyways, the fight of cool poses continues, and she ends up slicing both of their heads in one swing, which is, wow, super cool. How did that happen? Doesn't really matter, but it looked cool when it happened, though. And so she was about to go and kill Mara, because Mara at that time is super fucking weak. She got her tail cut off pretty easily, and Fine was about to fucking slice her head off until Misery comes in, and she's like, Please don't kill her. She's my friend. And I'm over here like, she was about to make you take the elixir drug. And did you see what the fuck happened to these girls who had taken the elixir drug? And you're gonna tell Fine, please don't kill her. She's my precious friend. I've known her since I was a child. Really? Really, Misery? Really? To play devil's advocate, maybe she was still charmed by Mara. But then again, you see it later on in Volume 2 that she probably isn't charmed, and it was just because Mara was her precious friend, so... I know she hosted a bacchanal and got all these girls high as fuck on these glitter drug that turned them into a werewolf, but please, spare her. I was looking back at my notes and I just wrote, is Misery still charmed by Mara at this point? Or is she just stupid? Probably have to go with the latter, unfortunately. Using this distraction and this opportunity, Mara takes the elixir drug and downs it herself. This is the part when we switch over to Hopkins, who find out that once a non-human consumes elixir, they become super powerful. Oh man, if only Hopkins had known this information sooner, huh? This wouldn't have happened. The lolly succubus turned into a super lolly succubus, and she begins beating the fuck out of Fine as she's about to... Well, actually, no, she beats Fine, and she was actually aiming for Iris, and since Fine obviously doesn't want Iris to get hurt, ends up getting stabbed through the gut because of it in order to protect Iris. But that didn't fucking do shit. You were useless anyways, Fine. She ends up getting super injured, and the succubus fucking tears the shit out of Iris. Fine's like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? You know, go ham on this girl. Fucking kick her ass. Iris is like, well, you told me to never show my ears in front of anybody, and there are people here, so I can't exactly do that. Sorry, y'all. I'm keeping my contract, and I always stay to my contract, even if I die. We see a very, I suppose, emotional scene of the lolly succubus about to kill Iris, and then, you know, Volume 1 ends. Oh, I forgot. During this, when she's yelling, she's yelling out to Iris as she's about to get fucking poked in the neck. We see the thoughts of Fine saying, after all this, I can't protect the one I love most. This poor shonen protagonist. But we do have, like, this extra chapter where Iris had said, let me add something to our contract too. Until this contract's fulfilled, I promise I will never leave you. It's just her saying, let's be together forever. And obviously, that's not a sign at all that Iris will be fine in Volume 2. I put in my first impression of Volume 2 as, what the heck happened in this volume? So anyways, before Iris was about to get killed, Hopkins comes in on time and uses her special ability of fucking wires to stop silver wires, to stop the lolly succubus, and Iris, not really caring too much about the silver, helps her out by holding on to the silver wires too, despite it burning through her flesh. And my favorite part was Hopkins saying, Fine, now! Kill her right here and then. And I'll be like, Fine is on the fucking ground right now. Do you see her? I don't think she's capable of doing anything. And without the help of Iris giving some of her power to Fine in order to get her to get up this one last time, honestly, what were they going to fucking do? Just play entanglement with this lolly succubus for a while until Fine's like, alright, I finally recovered a good amount of my strength to just crawl over there to swing my sword at her or something. With a little bit of power from Iris, she uses it and she lunges over to Mara. As she's about to slice the head of Mara, Mara's like, oh, it seems like I'm about to die. So now, let me give you my backstory. And I'm like, really? Did we really need a backstory of Mara? And this backstory, just like everything else, is a bit flimsy. And we see, because she's a succubus, females didn't like her because men were always attracted to her. And she's like, yeah, I could never stay friends with other women. But Misery, she was different. She was my friend either way. And I respect that. So she looks at Iris, she smiles at her and saying like, oh, I'm glad I got to meet you. And then we got a cool pose of Fine going in and slicing the fuck out of her. Anyways, as Mara lays dying, Fine's like, who sold you this elixir drug? And she's like, you think I fucking tell you? And so she stares at Misery, and she gives Misery a little bit of a smile, and then ends up telling Fine anyways, saying, I got it from the first wolf. After that, she died. She's dead. Oh no, this is the second person in Misery's life who is now dead. Oh, so sad, y'all, so sad. Then we had Iris asking Hopkins if she knew anybody else who also uses that silver wire as well, and when Hopkins says no, she's the only one who does, Iris says, oh, it seems like you've forgotten. That takes you back to the first chapter of Volume 1, when we got to see the backstory. During that time, you saw that Iris was entangled in silver wires as well, and that's why she was stuck and she was about to die from these LEA officers before Fine came and saved her. Later on, you do see that she has like a bunch of scars on her body, and I would only assume that is from Fine. Which is just, fantastic. And then at the end of chapter 6, we finally get a kiss scene that actually connects. Also, after all this big battle and like almost life-threatening situation, time to make out. I know she needs the blood and all, but like, priorities, am I right? At the final page, Iris tells Fine to regain her humanity soon so that she can devour her. At chapter 7, oh my god, dude, the chapter 7 cover. What the fuck, dude? You know, I saw that and then somehow I still wasn't prepared for what was going to happen in chapter 7. Oh my god, there's boobs and butts everywhere. And so, oh my god, there are nipples now. Oh, this is too raunchy for me. What happened? Now they're schlicking. When did I didn't realize I bought a hentai. Oh no. But the first thing we see in chapter 7 is Fine having a dream about her mom and Iris, who is walking away from her. And while Fine is like, yo, come back, why are you guys leaving me? The both of them look back and saying that she's the one who's done this to them. And she sees the bite wounds and all, like her mom's like missing parts and all that shit. And you get to see that's her mom. And she's also the same black-haired lady that you saw from chapter 1 of volume 1, the same lady that Iris was eating. And I was like, I guess it's just survivor's guilt for Fine, but like, first of all, mom, she just finished the job, alright? Iris was the one who started eating you in the first place. And also, if that is the fact that you found out that she was eating your mom, and you still ended up protecting and loving her anyways, like, what the fuck, did you not give a shit about your mom? But apparently in your dream, you put Iris and your mom in the same pesto of like, oh, don't leave me, where are you guys going, that sort of thing. Iris eating your mom is fine, but you eating your mom is not fine? I see how it is. Anyways, she wakes up, she sees Iris, but her wound still hurts, and then Hopkins knocks on the door just to check up on Fine, but Iris is like, you already fucking know that she's fine. What are you here for, huh? Trying to go after my girl? I ain't got no fucking shit on that. You can see her attitude changes real quick when she talks with other people, and how she's like very like in a sour mood. It's kind of like, don't fucking talk to me, that sort of thing. She was just trying to close Hopkins out, but Hopkins is like, hold on, you told me that I don't remember, and that's true. I don't remember much after I joined the LEA officers. She wanted Iris to tell her about it, but Iris is like, why don't you just ask the other people in your life then, huh? And just slams the door on her. And after that, Iris comes back to Fine, and she's like, so, your wounds are still bad, so let me help you out with flesh magic, which is a magic that can only work by skin-to-skin contact, so take off your clothes. And Fine's over here like, we're not going to do anything naughty, are we? Look, both of you guys are going to be naked, touching each other, and if you're telling me that is not something naughty already, don't even get me fucking started, Fine. But anyways, somehow we stumbled into hentai territory, and they just started going at it all day. The next morning, Fine wakes up and she's like, oh shit, we really have been doing it all day yesterday. But she finds out that the flesh magic was actually correct, and so her whole wounds are healed. But on the other hand, Iris's wounds are open again. And she finds that, oh, maybe it's because she was giving me so much of her magic that she started to lose up on that magic. So, you know, her old wounds ended up opening again. Which, I guess, is understandable. She's just sleeping soundly while fucking bleeding to death, I guess. Well, not specifically bleeding to death, but just fucking bleed. Who's going to clean the sheets, by the way? Not only is there fucking cum all over the place, there is blood here too. What are the tavern owners or what are the inn owners going to think about this? Well, it's a good thing they don't have any fucking blue lights, huh? But as Fine is looking at Iris, she thinks about how she initially made the pact with Iris because she felt like she deserved to die. But now, to be devoured by someone who loves her this much, she wouldn't mind. I guess. Like, I mean, wouldn't you want to live out your life a little bit? Like, help get over your guilt and live up the rest of your life with her? Or live up to a few more years before getting devoured by her? Come on, Fine. I wrote my note saying, we really hit that Vor vibe. Although Vor is really more of a I eat you whole sort of thing, huh? Instead of I eat you by the flesh, one bite at a time. Anyways, we head into chapter 8, where the trio are heading to the LEA headquarters, but Iris is unable to enter because she's not an LEA officer, which is unfortunate because honestly, if she came in there, I feel like a lot of the plot points would have just would have resolved itself if Iris was just there. We are introduced to a new character that I guess we kind of saw in Volume 1, who is Gaia Hecatrice. Is that what her name was? Gaia Hecatrice. What a fucking last name. But we find out that we are... Oh, there goes the recording again. Gaia Hecatrice is too strong. Yeah, we're introduced to Gaia Hecatrice, who is currently making out with this other LEA officers because of fucking course. Why the fuck not? And she goes and she acts as if nothing's really happening. And I think she even invited Hopkins in. Fine's over here like, why do I feel familiar with this situation? Well, it's because it happened to you and Iris previously, and with Hopkins as well. Well, with Hopkins coming in to you guys, about to fucking do it. But we see that Fine doesn't really trust the LEA because previously they used to hunt, wolf and witches. And since her mom was a witch, that's why they ended up getting to her mom as well, and also with Iris, because wolf and witches. But after that, they had turned over to werewolves and elixirs instead, and that's their new motto. Again, due to that, Fine still doesn't really trust them, but Gaia is like, oh, don't worry, we don't hunt witches and wolves anymore, we're just really after werewolves and the elixir. Besides, we've destroyed all the witches anyway, so it doesn't fucking matter. The way that she acts, even Fine says that. She's like, oh, I don't like this girl. She acts like a ditz, but her eyes are looking right through me. And I'm over here thinking, who else acts similar to that? Anyways, we find out that Fine was summoned here in order to deal with Misery and what was going to happen to her. And we get the next scene with Hopkins interrogating Misery and what was going to happen to her. Misery's like, oh, I want to help other people. Please let me join the LEA. She finds out that Fine is actually going to recommend her to become an LEA officer. So, yay, good job for you, Misery. Now you get to spread happiness and joy to other people, or at least, you know, get rid of all the other misery in this world. And then we had this one scene of Hopkins trying to go talk with the other people, aka Gaia Hecatrice, but she wasn't there. So she goes behind her chair, Gaia's chair, and she touches the wall, which then opens the door to a mysterious place, which is like, wow, fucking great. Like, if you could just touch this wall, and it opens to the mysterious zone. So she goes down into there, and she sees all these glass and waters of people inside, and you see that these people are actually Fine and Iris. And so Hopkins is like, what the fuck's going on here? What's happening? And we see the first wolf again, who's like, I see you came back here, huh? Let me just take your memory away, just like how I've done it every other time. So, like, I assumed she has come down here multiple times just to see this. Yeah, Hopkins goes and she forgets about it again, just like how the mangaka forgets about this plot point. Not only did it wipe out Hopkins' memory, it also wiped out the memory of the series too, because we never talk about it ever again. What are all these clones of Fine and Iris? Like, what's going on here? Like, what? And in the final pages, we see that Iris sees Fine, but notices Misery is right beside her. And I actually thought that this was Hopkins at first, but consider that there's so many freaking blonde characters in here, it was easy for me to misunderstand and thought that that was Hopkins, except with a new haircut for some reason. And without her glasses, she sees Fine with Misery, and she sees that Fine is smiling. And that makes Iris very yandere. Whew! So chapter 9, we see Fine and Iris continuing on their whole werewolf hunt, but with the addition of Misery in here as well. And we have Fine thinking about, like, wait a minute, if all the witches are dead, does that mean the first wolf is creating the elixir by herself? Through the contract, Fine is able to read what, Iris is able to read what Fine is thinking. And she's like, no, it can't be like that because the first wolf's magic is too strong for humans, so they need to dilute it through a witch's magic or witch's power first. Also, we continue seeing that Iris doesn't like the interaction between, between Fine and Misery. With the talk of the whole first wolf needing a witch, we see the first wolf and the witch both naked, because why the fuck not, of them creating the elixir and all that. Okay, I didn't mention this previously, but in chapter 7, there is like some nipple inconsistency, and that makes me upset, because why is it that in some pages we see nipples, but then in other pages we don't see nipples? And for some reason, in this scene with the first wolf and the witch lady, why are we seeing full-on nipples for her? Like, there are no other scenes where we don't see her nipples. We just see her nipples outright. So, like, what's with the nipple inconsistency, dog? It's either all nipples or nothing, alright? So later on, they have a mission of just Fine, Iris, and Misery. And Iris asks Fine, why is she so nice to Misery? Is it because she reminds her of her mom? And for some reason, that triggers the fuck out of Iris, and she was about to go into her low bloodlust rage. And before Iris can calm her down, Misery sees it and fucking runs over at the speed of light to calm her down a bit. And again, Iris doesn't like this interaction, and she's like, get the fuck away from her, man. Don't fucking touch her. And she ends up revealing a little bit of Fine's backstory in order to scare Misery away, you know, like, she killed her mom. Okay, I got distracted, and I don't remember where I was, but yeah, it pisses Iris off, and she reveals a bit of Fine's past, but Misery, being the horrible judge of character that she is, doesn't care about that, and that pisses Iris even more, and so Iris tells Misery off, you know, get the fuck away from her, you fucking slut, you goddamn whore, and this hurts Misery's feelings, and she runs away. Fine doesn't like that, so she ends up running off to find Misery, and that leaves Iris all alone. And while Misery's running off on her own, she encounters the first wolf, who is holding a bag of elixir, which is just fucking fantastic, dude. By the way, I didn't say this previously, but like in that chapter, in the previous chapter of when Hopkins discovered a secret underground lair and shit, and the fact that the first wolf is there, which is like in the LEA headquarters, and we also, no, I'm not saying that Gaia Hecatrice is the first wolf, but like, she's wearing that hat that kind of covers the top of her head, and also that black hair lady that she was making out with previously kind of looks like the same chick that's with the first wolf and making the elixir. So like, what's going on? Is the first wolf literally running the LEA? I mean, we have to get to some point where we're like, this whole organization is fucking corrupted, man. So, sucks to suck. You're out here trying to hunt the first wolf, but the first wolf has been here all this time. We don't get any confirmation, but like... Anywho, chapter 10, the first wolf tries to give Misery some elixir as if that'll work this time. And Misery's like, I'm not taking none of your shit. Let me take out this tiny little dagger that I have. And the first wolf's like, well, that sucks, so I guess I'll just have to kill you then. And before she could, Fine arrives and she sees that this is the first wolf, and we see a little talk with her and Iris saying that if you see the first wolf, she looks just like me. Why? Because she's my grandmother. To which I'm like, ew, gross. Of course she looks like you. We've been seeing her, we've seen a shot of you and her side by side, and it's like, why does she look like you? Oh, she's my grandmother. What a fucking great discovery, huh? And so, as Fine was about to slice the first wolf's head, the first wolf is like, bitch, I created elixir, so that means that I can control anybody who has elixir in them. Which is just fantastic. So, she uses that power to control Fine and forces Fine to kill Misery in the end. Which is just, fantastic. Misery ends up dying in Fine's hand, and she is just smiling on it. And Fine's like, how can you smile at this? I am the one who killed you. And she's like, well, you know, everybody else in my life has smiled while dying before my very eyes, so I might as well do it too.
Misery, how? How can you smile right now? Because the people I love smiled till the very end for me. I hope you can be happy. Why do I feel a little emotional right now?
In the end, Misery really played up to her name. And now I'm a little sad. I feel a little teary now. Why did this happen?
My eyeballs.
Oh, you've got one tear from me. Good job, Misery. It was just the circle of life. But anyways, Misery dies, and this puts Fine into a fucking werewolf rage, and so she ends up prowling the street to kill some people, because why the feck not? And we also see a scene of Hopkins with that black-haired lady and without Gaia, so like, I wonder where the fuck Gaia is. Hopkins find out, oh my god, Fine's a werewolf? Oh my goodness. What next? You're gonna tell me Iris is a wolf? So, final chapter, chapter 11, we see that Fine's about to kill a little kid, but then Iris stops her, and the little kid runs away. Congratulations, child, you fucking survived. Good for you. Iris fights Fine, but she finds out that Fine is way too strong for her and can't really do any damage, so Fine's literally beating the shit out of her right now. We have this little flashback or little thoughts from Iris while she's fighting Fine, and she thinks about the first time they met and how she only wanted to eat Fine because she holds the blood of Hera, who is the first witch. At that point, I'm kind of like, wait a minute, so your mom introduced you to Iris, Fine? And then Iris ate your mom? Is that part of the contract for those two? Like, what's going on here, man? What is feckin' happening? Anyways, yeah, she only wanted to eat Fine at first, but she's grown to really like her, you know, being around her. She thought that the idea of eating her seems almost silly. And at that point, I was kind of like, oh, okay, so we really are kind of starting to go on that point, huh, of where, like, I've fallen for you, and now I don't want to eat you anymore. Come on, man, it's either eat her or nothing. Don't go back on your promise. But as she gets sliced by Fine, she says that she'll give Fine all of her, and that she wants all of Fine. And when Fine hears that, she's like, oh my god, I've fucking hurt you again. Who would have thought? Don't worry, fucking Iris is a wolf, so she'll be fine. But she hears and sees that the LEA officers are coming, and especially two of the top LEA hunters, so like, cool, whatever. They even had names, but I'm like, whatever. We're like literally at the end of volume 2. Who gives a shit? Fine at first is kind of like, oh, I really should just give myself up, but I still really want to become human so that you can eat me. Which is like, Jesus Christ, I knew that this was a fetish at some point, but like, damn Iris. Damn Fine, goddamn. So it ends with them renewing their contract. I forgot to say previously that their ring had broken as a way of, I suppose the contract had broken. But they renew their contract with the ring reappearing on both of their fingers. I assume they are about to fight all the LEA officers instead of, I don't know, just running away or something. I guess they don't have the strength to do that, so they might as well just do a last stand. And that is the conclusion of this series. Until you read chapter F, which just makes absolutely no sense to me, because, okay, actually I wrote in here, I said, what the heck is this chapter? Yeah, so, like, you see a magic circle and a bunch of dead LEA officers, so, like, I assume they went somewhere. They fought them and they went somewhere, and apparently Fine has regained her humanity through a ritual, with the magic circle. I don't see the first wolf here anywhere. I didn't see you devour no first wolf, so, like, what happened here? So, yeah, Fine regained her humanity, and then they did a mention of, like, oh, Moira is here, and Moira is just standing on top of the statue that's above them, and she's like, it's my time to kill you, Fine, but then they both just absolutely ignored her. Which is just fantastic. That is just her character, to be fucking ignored. She's over here like, I'm gonna kill you. And then these two are just like, whatever, hold on, alright? I need Iris to eat me first. Iris is like, I don't want to live in a world without you. But then she proceeds to eat her anyways, like, as a way of being like, oh, we'll be together forever, which is absolute bullshit, because if it goes through your stomach, it's literally just gonna come right out of you, alright? I assume you fucking shit, so, like, don't fucking lie to me about this whole, you'll be a part of me once I eat you and shit. That doesn't, it goes through one way and out the other, alright? It does not stay in you forever. But yeah, so, like, Fine gets eaten by Iris, and Hopkins is just gonna watch. What's happening here, man? Like, what the fuck is going on? I am just ever so confused. And that concludes the bad ramblings of Scarlet. Would I recommend you to read this? Well, I mean, if somehow you've gone through the spoiler arena without reading it, or if you already read it, well, I mean, you've already read it, so I can't really tell you if I recommend you reading it or not. But if you haven't read it yet, and you're here, and you're still here, you know, it's about the ride. And it's about the whole, what the fuck is going on here that really gets me. It's an enjoyable manga to fucking talk about, that's for sure. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun recording this and talking about it, and Jesus Christ, my voice is fucking dying yet again. It's whatever. Had a great fucking time, and if you ever decide to pick up this manga, you know, just know that you are going on a fucking roller coaster ride, and there's no stopping it. It just keeps going faster and faster until you just hit a brick wall, and then you die. You just drop dead, just like the little girl. It's gonna conclude it for me. If you liked this video, remember to give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think about the series, or let me know what you think about this video in general. I always like talking with you guys, and you know, if you guys ever want to support me, I do have Buy Me a Coffee page, which is in the description down below, or on my Patreon page, I have the tip jar for $1 a month if you ever want to support me through that way. It's always nice. And if you guys ever want to see my recommended Yuri list, it is in the description down below. It is the Amazon shop. So yeah, there's that, and you know, I'm obligated to say that it is an affiliate thing, so I will get a share if you end up buying something from my recommended Yuri list. That's about it. That's the end of the video.